And in today's video, as you can see, I am finally doing a very anticipated video on my channel. It is finally time for the NBA playoffs. Now, as you guys are watching this video, it should be the day, or at least the day before, the NBA playoffs are going on. And today, I will just basically be doing a sort of, predictions video on, I guess, the series, talking about the series very quickly, and just going on and picking my personal picks for who I think is going to win the NBA Finals this year. So make sure you sit back and relax and enjoy. Make sure to tell me who you think is going to be the NBA champion down in the comments below. Also, make sure to like the video if you like the video and are also very excited for the NBA playoffs. And don't forget to subscribe. I am doing a 7.5k subscriber giveaway. It's halfway between where I was and 10,000, so I thought I'd do a little giveaway before I hit 10,000. So if you do want to be in that giveaway, make sure you just subscribe. It's that easy. And also maybe liking a couple videos here and there would also boost your chances at that. But yeah, other than that, again, I guess we can just get started with me predicting the NBA playoffs, which also note that my opinion doesn't matter. My opinions are dumb, stupid, don't matter. It's not going to affect the series at all. So if I don't pick your team or say something dumb, that's just me being stupid and dumb. So I think I'm just going to first of all go through each of the matchups and then go through and pick my winners for each one. Okay, so for the 1-8 matchup in the West, it is the Utah Jazz going up against either the Memphis Grizzlies or the Golden State Warriors. Then you have the 4-5 matchup of the LA Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks, which I think is going to be one of the most exciting of the games, hopefully. You have Denver and Portland, which should be a pretty cool matchup as well. Phoenix and the Lakers at the 2 and 7. Over in the Eastern Conference, you have the Philadelphia 76ers going up against the 8-seeded Washington Wizards. Then we have the New York Knicks, the New York Knicks going up against the Atlanta Hawks, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Miami Heat. And then for the 2-7 matchup in the East, we have the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. So I guess we can just get started first of all with what I was just talking about again, the Utah Jazz going up against the either Memphis Grizzlies or the Golden State Warriors. Again, I'm filming this in the past, so I don't know who wins out in the West for the play-in game for at least the 8th matchup. Golden State and Memphis already played late in this year, only like about a week ago or so, and there were definitely a lot of ups and downs, but yes, I do think the Golden State Warriors still make it out. They looked really good against the defending NBA champion LA Lakers, so although their game was very close last time, I almost want to predict a blowout in this game because of just how much of that blow they took from the LA Lakers lost, almost defeating an NBA champion, probably boosted their confidence a lot, and I also think that this will give them a burst of energy in that game. But in this playoff series, trying to beat a game 4 times in 7 games, I like the Warriors' chances on again having another great Steph Curry game here and there. I can really only see this series going about 4 or 5 games. Could Steph Curry carry this team in a 7-game series? Maybe, but with the fact that Utah's getting Donovan Mitchell back, Utah has a lot of great perimeter defenders on their squad. That's going to be a very tough out to try to win 4 times against this team. Maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but I'm going to pick Utah. I'm going to say in 5 or 6 games. Again, Steph Curry's going to have some great games. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to win, out in 4 games. So I'm going to pick the Utah Jazz. And we have the 2-7 matchup of the Phoenix Suns and the LA Lakers, which, in my opinion, is going to be also a very fun matchup. You have the sort of new, revigored Phoenix Suns team with Chris Paul and the sort of emergence of finally playoff Devin Booker. I know, super exciting. And you have the defending NBA champions, LA Lakers, who were looking really good this year, obviously due to a lot of injuries and stuff like that. Look like aren't going to be able to be the team that they want to be, but they're treading and hopefully making their way into the playoffs this year. I do really like the Phoenix Suns' chances this year, and quite honestly, if I was a betting man, I would bet my money on the Phoenix Suns this year. They might even be some sort of an underdog this year, but I wouldn't count them out completely. It really just depends on how healthy the Lakers are. And, if LeBron and AD don't have a start like they did in the Golden State Warrior and Laker game, which they were maybe 3 for 15 combined or something like that. They were horrible. If they could just be not even a normal LeBron and AD, even just a good LeBron and AD, I feel like they can at least help them win these games. And maybe by game 4, 5, 6, they can really have their legs under them, making good strides. And I'm betting on that. So I'm picking actually the Lakers to upset the 2-seeded Phoenix Suns. I will say in 6. I feel like a lot of these series are going to be very close. The talent in the NBA is as close as it's ever been. A lot of these series are going to be, 6-7 deep, at least in my opinion. So I have the Lakers in 6. And then for the 4-5 matchup, well, let's do 3-6. It's next. The 3-6 matchup, we have the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers, which, again, we saw these two teams match up 2 years ago in the Western Conference semifinals. Obviously, these teams are very different from that time. Obviously, with Denver, with Aaron Gordon, the sort of emergence of Michael Porter Jr., the loss of Jamal Murray, and a lot of other really good role players. And then for Portland, obviously your core is still there with Dame, CJ, Yusuf, some role players here and there, but also with, Norman Powell, the loss of a lot of other really good pieces. Do these two teams really stack up against each other nowadays? In my opinion, yes. I do think Denver is going to give Portland a bunch of trouble, even though Denver is without their second guy on the team. I still feel like the reemergence of I don't want to say emergence of Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a very big deal in this. He's probably going to be maybe the second leading scorer in the entire series. He is a 6'10" forward who, quite honestly, on Portland, no one's going to be able to guard him. If he's playing the way he's playing, he will dominate this series. That's really dangerous for Portland. The best case scenario for Portland is for Denver to be just the Nikola Jokic show. If they can just have Nikola Jokic just go off, have a sort of MVP sort of series, that's perfectly fine. But they can't have Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon have breakout sort of playoff series. So I'm going to pick Portland. I'm betting on Jokic being amazing, winning some games here and there just because he is the MVP. But as a whole, and hopefully with some health, knocking on wood, I'm giving this series to Portland in 6. Yes, again, another 6-game series. And then we have the 4-5 matchup of the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers. A rematch of last year. Dallas, pretty much the same team, but wow, are they different in sort of their own player development. Luka seems to be even smarter than he was last year, even though he came into the league as a very smart player. And hopefully with, again, the health of Kristaps Porzingis, this team could make a lot of buzz if they catch the Clippers off guard here and there. Now, with that being said, this is not the same Clipper team of last year. This is not the cocky, loudmouth, look at us, we're the new LA team, we're the title favorites type of team anymore. This team was very quiet throughout the NBA season, almost kind of under the radar. Obviously, a lot of NBA teams and players were talking, and analysts were talking about, Brooklyn, Philly, the Lakers. Clippers seem to be the odd man out. And in my opinion, this Clipper team might even be better than last year. So, if they do keep their heads on a swivel, always alert, finally in their sort of lock-in mode that they should have been in last year, this Clipper team is going to be very dominant. I'm going to pick the Clippers in 6, even if Kristaps Porzingis plays very well. I think Luka is going to have a very troubling time with Paul George and Kawhi. They have a lot of good perimeter play with Beverly as well. I just really hope that they can just control everyone else. You can let Luka have his Luka Doncic days. That's totally fine. But when it comes down to everyone else, you can't let anyone else sort of get going in this series. So I'm picking the Clippers, yes again, in 6 games. Then over in the Eastern Conference at the 1 and 8 seed, we have the Philadelphia 76ers and the Washington Wizards. I'm picking Philly. I feel like that's kind of an easy one. Now, I do feel like the Wizards could catch a game here and there. Obviously, they have a past MVP in Russell Westbrook, one of the leading scorers in the NBA, Bradley Beal. It's just that everyone else on that team really needs to step up. It seems like some points in time, Ish Smith is their third best player, which is very concerning. So I'm going to pick Philly in 5. I feel like Washington can probably pick up a game here. Could it go 6? Maybe if Philly's having a very off night, but you're going to have Ben Simmons, you're going to have Danny Green. Those guys can really, and Matisse Thybulle, those guys can really help out on the defense of the perimeter for those guys, Russ and Bradley Beal. But who's stopping Joel Embiid? Absolutely no one. I'm saying 5 games for Philly. And for the 2-7 matchup, we have the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. And I'm kind of on the same page for that team as I am for Washington. They have great players like Kemba and Jason Tatum. But obviously with the injury of Jaylen Brown, this team is going to be very different, especially going up against the Brooklyn Nets, who I think are going to be starting Kyrie, Katie, and Harden at the start of the series. Do they need to? Definitely not, but they probably will. So I'm going to pick Brooklyn in 5. Again, I think Jason Tatum can probably win them a game here and there, especially if Kemba Walker can sort of be what Kemba Walker used to be in Charlotte, can have a good 20 to 30 point game here and there. They'll have a shot at a game or two, but Jason Tatum is a good perimeter player, but dude, they're going to have Katie, Kyrie, and Harden. There's no way that they're going to be able to steal, 4 out of 7 games. So I'm picking the Brooklyn Nets in 5. Then we have the 3-6 matchup between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat, which, in my opinion, could be the most playoffy type of vibe for a series we could have. These two teams might have some sort of a rivalry going on. There might be a lot of pushing, shoving. It could get very interesting in that sort of series. This is very interesting because it can go either way. For me, it's just, what Miami team are we going to see? Are we going to see the locked in, almost like the last year playoff run Miami Heat team? Or are we going to see more of the regular season Miami Heat team? It makes me very nervous. Obviously, Jimmy Butler is a no-joke, very serious player. I think he will kick this team into high gear. But Giannis and the Bucks were averaging like 120 points per game this year. I think at one point when they did play against each other, they scored 144 against Miami. Now, obviously Miami had a lot of injuries and stuff like that throughout the year, so maybe that is a washed sort of stat, but it can't be ignored. This this Milwaukee Bucks team with now Jrue Holiday looks really good. I am picking the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Miami Heat. I'm going to say in 7 games. Could it be Miami? Absolutely yes. And low-key, I kind of hope it is because I love upsets. But Giannis knows that even though he can't be the best player in the NBA because he hasn't shown up in the playoffs, I feel like this year he will. So I'm picking the Bucks. Then lastly, we have the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks series. This one could also be very interesting. This one's also kind of even a toss-up. Obviously, with the Knicks, they looked really good this year. Their defense was one of the best in the NBA. They have the most improved player nominee in Julius Randle. And then on the other hand, you have the Atlanta Hawks, who have Trae Young, who is a very young and promising young player, has a crazy three-point shot, one of the best scorers in the NBA already in his career. So it really, in my opinion, comes down to the others for this matchup. How is RJ Barrett going to play? How are the bigs going to play? It really comes down to everyone else, Derrick Rose even. And then for Atlanta, you have John Collins and Clint Capella, Bogdanovich. There's a lot of ifs and whats and whos that are going to be into play in this playoff series. But I'm not betting against the Knicks. I am betting on the Knicks to win. I find this to be maybe even quite possibly a 6 or 7 series matchup because these two teams are very similar. Again, could the Knicks dominate and sweep this team? Absolutely. Could the Knicks pull a Knicks and sort of blow it? I think yes as well. So I'm going to pick in between the middle. I'm gonna say about 5-6 games maybe. Could it go to 7? I want to say yes because I want to watch it, but I'm still picking the Knicks no matter what, so I'm picking the Knicks to win out on the series. So in the West, I have the 1-seeded Utah Jazz playing the LA Clippers, and then Portland playing the Lakers. Out in the East, I have the Philadelphia 76ers going up against the New York Knicks, and the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Brooklyn Nets. Now over in the West, we have Utah, we have the Clippers. Utah could finally show a lot in this sort of playoff run they could possibly have. Again, the Warriors could upset them, maybe. But, like I said, I'm not betting against the Clippers this year. They look completely different from a mindset. They look a lot more together, which is really good. And, you know that Kawhi loves a shortened NBA season because he's still got a lot of rest this year. And Paul George looks like an all-NBA caliber type of guy this year. They also have Boogie Cousins this year. I can't really bet against this team. Even though Utah with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, they're good, I don't know if the others on that team can really pick up the rest of the slack that maybe if Donovan Mitchell has, a game where he gets completely locked up by either Kawhi or Paul George. It's going to be very tough. And also with Donovan Mitchell coming off an injury that he's been out for weeks now, is he going to be able to make long playoff pushes into this sort of playoff 2021 series? I'm not entirely sure. And then you just have Rudy Gobert, who's a 12 to 15 point per game scorer. He's going to dominate on the rebounding and probably blocking shots too, but he's not going to be able to carry an offensive load. We saw that in last year's playoff against Denver. Donovan Mitchell scoring 40, 50-point games, and it was really just Donovan Mitchell. So I'm going to say the Clippers win. It could be quick. I'm going to say 5 games, 6 games. It's going to be pretty bad in my opinion, just because they just still don't have enough oomph on that team to make it past these star guys like Clippers, Lakers, Nets, sort of, I guess, higher tier NBA teams. So I'm picking the Clippers. The other half of the bracket, I got Portland and the Lakers. Now, the Portland Trailblazers could surprise a lot of people in this year's playoff. In my opinion, they're not. They could be out in the first round in like 6 games. Wouldn't surprise me. They could quite possibly make it to a Western Conference Finals. Wouldn't also surprise me. It really just comes down to how everything clicks. If they look off for 1 or 2 games, the series is already done. Obviously, we saw that a couple years ago when they were the 3 seed against the 6-seeded New Orleans Pelicans, and the Pelicans beat them to a crisp. We could quite possibly see that again this year against Denver, or even in this instance against the LA Lakers. Anthony Davis has been busting the Blazers' butts since he was a rookie. So I think that's going to continue. They have no one who can stop Anthony Davis. They have no one who can really stop LeBron James besides maybe like a Robert Covington. And even though that's not the greatest answer, that's all they got. And I just don't think it's going to be great for Portland in this series. I'm going to say the Lakers in 5 or 6. Could Portland win? I think yes. If Portland wins the series, they're going to have to go up like 2-0 in this series. They're going to have to really put the hurting on the Lakers fast. If they don't, it's a GG. I'm saying that happens. I'm going to say Lakers in about 5 or 6. In the East, we have the Philadelphia 76ers going up against the New York Knicks. Wow, that could be a lot of fun. I do really like the Knicks in this series. Again, a very scrappy team going up against a very scrappy team. This one could also be a very push, shovey type of matchup, like again with the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. But I don't think Mitchell Robinson is going to be back for this series. If I'm wrong, that's good for the Knicks because they're going to need literally anyone to at least put up against Joel Embiid. They have Nerlens Noel, which I don't know if that's the greatest answer for Joel Embiid, but that's all they have. And, they're going to have some really good play from Embiid, and Ben Simmons probably going up against Julius Randle. Randle can hopefully be their go-to guy in this series. They still have Derrick Rose, RJ Barrett. They have good scorers. I just don't know if it's going to be able to keep up with the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm picking the Sixers in about 5 or 6. Could it go the other way? I mean, maybe. But again, for like Portland and the Lakers, the New York Knicks are going to have to hit Philly hard, fast. They're going to have to go up at least 2 games to be able to get a good sort of flow into things. If that doesn't happen, they will lose. Joel Embiid is going to go off. Ben Simmons is probably going to have a very good series as well. I don't know if Randall's going to guard Embiid or Simmons. I don't know. It's going to be tough for them. I'm picking Philly in about 5 or 6. And lastly, we have the Milwaukee Bucks going up against, yes, the Brooklyn Nets. And this could quite possibly be a very close series. I'm picking the winner of this one to go possibly 7 games, 6 games. And it also really comes down to the Milwaukee Bucks. I feel like they're the make it or break it team to sort of make it very tough on the Nets this year. It really comes down to how, Holiday is going to guard. I'm assuming Kyrie. I'm assuming Chris Middleton's going to have to guard James Harden. And I'm assuming Giannis is going to have to guard Kevin Durant. Now, those are pretty good matchups for those guys. This series is really going to come down to, how Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Dante DiVincenzo, Joe Harris, Jeff Green, how the others play for the Stars, because the Stars are colliding in this series. It just comes down to, how powerful they will be, which obviously the Nets have, but Milwaukee definitely has a better all-around team. So if Dante, Brook Lopez, these other guys can really take off, the Bucks could quite possibly beat the Nets in about 6 or 7 games. But will that happen though? And am I betting on that? Absolutely not. I'm picking the Nets to move on. But keep in mind, the Bucks have the best chance at taking out the Nets this year. Will they do it? Probably not. But they'd have the best chance. I have, yes, the Battle of LA, the Clippers versus the Lakers, going up against Philly and the Brooklyn Nets. I'm going to do the East first this time because it's a little bit easier. Philly and Brooklyn, very good series. Again, could go 7 games. If, which is why ifs are never good. If Joel Embiid plays like an MVP, if Ben Simmons can try to lock up at least one of the superstars of the Nets, the Nets, and then Thibault, Danny Green, those guys are also going to play tremendous defense on those guys. It's a lot of ifs and hopefuls and, who's going to step up on that team. The Nets just need 2 of the 3 superstars to go off, and they quite possibly win every single game of the series. I could see this either being a sweep or a 7-game tough, grindy matchup. Man. Would it surprise me if Philly won the series? No. But again, it'd have to be a very tough and grueling matchup for them. It's a lot of ifs for that team to win. So I'm picking the team with less ifs. I'm picking, yes, who would have thought, the Brooklyn Nets to make the NBA Finals. And then in the West, again, like I said, we have the Battle of LA that we were hoping for last year, where these 2 teams were quite possibly at their peaks. Now we're getting a very good LA Clipper team and a Laker team that is limping into the playoffs. And in my opinion, going through 2 extremely tough series for the Lakers, having a very tough year. LeBron probably still not being 100%. AD had a struggling season all year. The role players on this team are not anything close to they were last year. Their defense isn't anywhere close to where it used to be last year. It's a great defense, still not as good as it was last year. Could the Lakers win this matchup? Yes. If Drummond can be sort of like a Detroit Pistons type of Drummond, where he can average, 15 points, 15 to 20 rebounds a game, can actually be productive on defense, and if Kuzma can finally step into his role, sort of like how Michael Porter Jr. is in Denver, if Kuzma can finally step out and finally be that guy we're all hoping for him to be, that third option, of course the Lakers have a chance. But again, it's too many ifs and buts and who's and what ifs. I can't keep betting on the Lakers. I'm actually going to say the Clippers win in quite possibly a 7-game series. Again, this Clipper team is so locked in and they're finally getting their shot at the LA Lakers when they're limping, when they're at their probably their weakest point. It's time to strike. It's time to pounce on the enemy. So I'm going to pick the Clippers to win, probably in 7 games. It's going to be a good series, and obviously the Lakers can win, but LeBron is going to be amazing. AD's going to be, last year's playoff AD, and the rest of the Lakers have to step up. They absolutely have to. So, in the NBA Finals, I have the LA Clippers going up against the Brooklyn Nets. Wow. So the stars are still there for both teams. Obviously, you have Kawhi, KD, Paul George, James Harden. You have Kyrie going to have to be putting up with Reggie Jackson and Patrick Beverly and all these guards that are on the Clippers now. It's going to be tough, and hopefully Boogie Cousins can really step up for this series because he can really dominate if he's the only 6'11", 7-footer out there on the court. Hopefully he can do some good post play, can average maybe about 15 points per game, can really put a hurting on the Brooklyn Nets, keeping them big when they really, really, really want to go small ball. This is quite possibly going to be the best matchup in the entire playoffs. Definitely has that potential. It's going to be probably a 7-game series. I'm going to bet this series goes 7. I just think Paul George and Kawhi are going to be so locked in. And I know, remember, you're saying locked in. Paul George last year was pandemic P. Yes, I know. And I think that is going to motivate him so much this year. He's going to play this entire playoff run like his absolute life depended on it. And it almost kind of does. If Paul George has another bust series and they go out in the first or second round, Paul George will probably never be able to live that down. So I think Paul George really steps it up this year. And the Clippers could quite possibly upset the Brooklyn Nets if, again, Kawhi and Paul George can lock up and at least contain 2 of the 3 of the big 3. Then you have Patrick Beverly and some other really good perimeter players on that Clippers team that can help out on, a Kyrie Irving or James Harden. I don't think anyone's going to really have a lot of success against Kevin Durant unless it is Kawhi or Paul George. They're going to look really good. But you can still never bet against intense greatness. And they have 3 of quite possibly the top 10, 15 NBA players on one team with some still really good play from a lot of good role players. Obviously, like Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green, and some of the other sort of guys who are up and coming on that Brooklyn Nets team trying to make a name for themselves. They're hungry for a championship. And I am betting that that's really going to take a hold, especially for a player like James Harden, who's never won a championship before. I could see James Harden being finals MVP for this team. I like their chances. I'm going to say the Brooklyn Nets are the 2021 NBA champions, winning the series in 7 games. So guys, that's going to be it for me. Make sure you guys tell me who you think the NBA champion is for your brackets. You can tell me individually, one team, all the sort of winners for every matchup. Definitely let me know down in the comments. Make sure you also leave a like on the video. Like I said, I'm very excited to talk more NBA playoff basketball with you guys, and I will be going on vacation after this video, so my uploads are going to be very staggered, so keep that in mind. There will not be an upload tomorrow, but they will be on Sunday. So yeah, Brooklyn Nets 2021 NBA champions. Let me know what you think, and yeah, I will see you guys again in my next video very, 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 very soon. Alright guys, bye.